LA Mayor Eric Garcetti, you, sir, and I use that very loosely, are a complete idiot. You're a cretin. You think that they're going to eat you last. That's what you're hoping for, is that these violent protesters will eat you last. Yeah, you're still going to get eaten, but I guess last is better than first. Doesn't make any sense. He says the best of our democratic ideals come from Portland. Those same ideals, throwing fire bombs.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, setting fires. Yeah, those are all peaceful democratic ideals. No, they're not. LA Mayor Eric Garcetti backed violent demonstrations, protest, rioting in Portland, Oregon on Thursday, referring to mobs that have attacked a federal courthouse as the best of our democratic ideals and slamming federal law enforcement's response. What are they supposed to do? Allow you to go into that building and burn it down? Is that par for the course? Is that proper police procedure? What would you do in, let's say, LA if they were doing that? Allow it to happen? Yeah, you would. Here's his tweet from July 23rd. Demonstrators for racial justice represent the best of our democratic ideals. The president's unilateral deployment of federal forces betrays them and does nothing to keep us safe. LA stands with our friends in Portland. You mean these friends? Right. Portland has been the scene of nightly violent riots for weeks. Black Lives Matter protesters have pelted officers with bottles, rocks, and bricks. The protests have included Black Lives Matter activists and members of the militant ANTIFA group. By the way, for you folks out there who love history, Antifa was sort of a anti-socialist group who were communists in the middle to late 30s, possibly before that, in a Central European nation. You know who I'm talking about. So yeah. Their latest target is the Mark O. Hatfield U.S. Courthouse, which they have vandalized and attempted to set on fire. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler, who is also a local police commissioner, has done very little to stop them. In fact, on Wednesday night, he joined the rioters in solidarity and was assaulted by members of the crowd as he left the area. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security, DHS, acting pursuant to 40 U.S. Code 1315, has sent federal officers to Portland to protect the federal property. Democrats have described the officers as secret police, citing the fact that they are not wearing name badges. Would you want to wear a name badge? Have to be doxxed? Having to protect your family? No. And again, in my previous video, you know I'm not a fan of police and police enforcement. However, I do understand they provide a necessary means to a polite society. You have no cops, then there's no consequence. You can do anything you want. Anything. Though that is because Antifa often doxes law enforcement officers, releasing their personal information online and targeting them in their private lives and their personal residences. Acting DH Secretary Chad Wolf explained this week that federal officers have identified themselves with police insignia. In addition to violence, the protesters in Portland have seen various other extreme tactics, such as using toddlers to convey obscene police messages. I'm not going to show it because YouTube sucks. So, but just believe me that they said, these little toddlers said F the police, etc., etc. Why would you have your kids do that? That seems like bad parenting, but what do I know? Oh, that's right, I am a parent. Toddlers and very young children march outside the Portland Federal Courthouse. They carry signs and say F the police on cue from the adults. One toddler does the black power fist. Great. That's what we need more. More revolutionaries to grow up in this country to add to the other pseudo-revolutionaries. Breitbart News asked Mayor Garcetti in a press conference last week if the new stay-at-home orders in Los Angeles would apply to protests as well. The mayor replied that outdoor protests were allowed as social distancing measures were taken. The racial justice protesters in Portland do not appear to be heeding that advice. Several other Democratic mayors have joined Portland in opposing the presence of federal law enforcement agents in their cities as President Donald Trump launched Operation Legend to fight crime waves that have broken out in the wake of nationwide unrest. The operation involves sending federal personnel to assist local law enforcement in restoring order. Again, understand that this whole thing, they're protecting federal property. They're not patrolling the streets. However, they are allowed to push the protesters back to avoid stuff like this. Don't, then they keep doing stuff like this. It's just amazing. Now here we are in a, dare I say, peaceful country. We're not really seeing peaceful acts from these protesters who are out there doing this. And that. What are you going to do? Eric Garcetti's an idiot. He thinks that these people will eat him last. He's going to back up these angry, violent rioters trying to burn down and kill police, federal police, in the courthouse in Portland. Why? Because reasons. So what does Mayor Ted Wheeler do in Portland? Nothing. Why? Because he basically backs all this violence, all the violence against the federal government. Dare I say, are we ending the peaceful phase and starting the revolutionary phase? Well, I would say yes. We're in a sort of a cold civil war. Even though there is violent activities, it hasn't gone full blown where there's two distinct sides. Well, honestly, I think there's going to be at least 4 different distinct sides. Well, whatever the case may be, we're hosed. The federal government doesn't really want to stop this. Why? Well, because if they stop it, then they can't really campaign on it. They say, vote for us and we'll stop all this violence. The liberals, the douchebag communists, ANTIFA members, they continue to do this because no one's stopping them. So what do the liberal Democratic mayors, liberal Democratic senators, liberal Democratic governors of states and localities, what do? They do nothing by backing up this sort of violent activity. Even though we see it, Jerry Nadler says it's a myth. Is this a myth? No, it's not. It's not a myth. It actually exists. So in conclusion here, is this the best of our democratic ideals? Is this what we do when we go from not agreeing to a big disagreement? Is this what we do? Is this the normal political procedure now? I'd like to know because, well, let's put it this way. If and when this supposed revolution happens, I know what side I'm going to be on. Do you know what side you're going to be on? Do you know what side you're going to be on? I sure hope so. I would like to be on the side of peace and prosperity, not violence and death. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoy my content. Thank you.